Bringing you the latest news from around the world, and here at home, I'm Sandro Ferdinando.
And I'm Nanel J. Woodner. Let's start with a look at tonight's headlines.
Blue-green economy budget proposal presented to Parliament. Budget proposal encourages small and medium enterprises, concessions for farmers, fishermen and IT sector. 1 million rupee import tax reduction on electric motor vehicles. The petrol distribution unloaded from Nevaska Lady vessel commences. Shocking expose on 2012 Valikada prison riot, 5 years on.
The third budget of the Good Governance government, titled Blue-Green Budget Enterprise Sri Lanka, was presented in Parliament today by Minister of Finance Mangala Samaravira.
There was good news for prospective electric vehicle owners, bad news for regular car enthusiasts. There was also positive news for the agri, fisheries and IT sectors. Here are some of the key highlights from the 2018 budget.
All vehicles in the country to be powered by non-fossil fuel sources by 2040. All government vehicles will be converted to hybrid or electric vehicles by 2025. Import taxes on an electric car will be reduced by at least 1 million rupees, while the import tax on the high-end fossil fuel cars will be increased by almost 2.5 million rupees. A special tax will be imposed on super luxury vehicles with an engine capacity exceeding 2,500 cc. Import taxes on a diesel three-wheeler will be increased by around 50,000 rupees. A carbon tax for motor vehicles has been proposed as follows: 17 cents a day for motorcycles, 1 rupee and 78 cents a day for cars, 2 rupees and 74 cents a day for passenger buses. Incentives are to be provided to encourage the use of off-grid solar power in establishing electric car charging stations.
I heard that a group of members in the opposition have already embraced the green economy. We are glad. But the only problem is that the bicycles that they rode are now being ridden by the security guards. The vehicles are all here. All government vehicles will be converted to hybrid or electric vehicles by 2025. The taxes on the importation of electric vehicles, including electric three-wheelers, cars and buses, will be reduced, while rationalizing the import taxes on vehicles powered by fossil fuel.
To discourage the use of polythene and plastic products, an excise duty of 10 rupees per kilogram for plastic resins will be imposed. Customs duties for all machinery, equipment, raw materials and intermediary goods used in manufacturing of biodegradable packaging material will be removed. Parks comprising jogging tracks and meditation centers will be established in each administrative division. The government will bear 50% of the cost of multi-day trawlers more than 55 feet in length in order to encourage deep-sea fishing.
A weather-indexed insurance scheme has been designed. The insurance cover will be a minimum of Rs 40,000 per acre for 6 crops. This will be a contributory scheme. The government will invest 3,000 million rupees in 2018.
කෙවන ආකාරයෙන් මේ දායකත්ව රක්ෂණ ක්‍රමය සැකසෙනවා 2018 දී රජය විසින් රුපියල් මිලියන 3,000ක් මේ සඳහා ආයෝජනය කරනවා.
NBT will be exempted on the imports of selected equipment including greenhouse technology that enables advanced technology agriculture practices. The government has allocated 10 billion rupees to facilitate the establishment of a development bank with an EXIM window to enable long-term financing of private sector ventures. The 2018 budget also proposes allocating 500 million rupees to establish an SME guarantee fund to further augment the SME's capacity to borrow. 750 million rupees has been allocated by the budget to introduce 8 credit schemes on low interest rates to support the SMEs and micro-level entrepreneurs. The scheme will be known as the Enterprise Sri Lanka Credit Scheme. The scheme will make available credit facilities with the interest subsidy being at least 10% more for women entrepreneurs, while differently abled entrepreneurs will be eligible to access the scheme with the interest subsidy being at least 15% more relative to others. The government will also support the Colombo University's initiative to venture into new streams such as data science, big data analytics, actuarial studies and business analytics. A VAT refund scheme for foreign passport holders will be implemented at the airports and seaports with effect from the 1st of May 2018. The 2018 budget also proposes the removal of restrictions that limit land ownership rights of listed companies with foreign ownership, together with the restrictions on foreigners' ability to purchase condominiums below the 4th floor. The government also calls for the creation of an employment preparation fund with students receiving a monthly stipend of 3,500 rupees per month. A total of 75 million rupees has been allocated to increase the eligibility criteria of the household income threshold from 300,000 rupees to 500,000 rupees per annum for the Mahapola scholarship scheme. The budget also proposes the development of 100 rural playgrounds throughout the country. Para-tariffs imposed on the import of sports shoes will be removed with effect from midnight tonight. NBT will be imposed on liquor with effect from the 1st of April 2018, while a tax structure based on a formula linked to the alcohol content and type will also come into effect. The government has also decided to allow Bank of Ceylon and the People's Bank to raise both debt and equity capital. However, the state will not relinquish the controlling ownership. Fees charged for services provided by the government, which have not been revised over the last 3 years, will be increased by 15%. A special levy for debt repayment at the rate of 20 cents per 1,000 rupees on the total transaction made through banks will come into effect from the 1st of April. This levy will only be applicable for 3 years. The government will also issue licenses to import cigarettes and cigars in a bid to crack down on illegal cigarettes. The budget also imposes an excise duty on raw materials used for ethanol production based on the quantity and introduces an excise duty of 15 rupees per litre on non-potable alcohol. News1st LC facilities will not be permitted to be used for the importation of motor vehicles from the 1st of January 2018. The budget also calls for a fee on advertisements done through SMSs at a rate of 25 cents per SMS with effect from the 1st of April 2018.
At the heart of the ensuing debate in the coming 26 days will lie not only the question of economic development, but also the question of values. We will talk about values that should shape our country and determine our children's future. On one side of the debate, indivisibility of our great nation, rights and dignity for all, rule of law, strong institutions, economic prosperity built on a strong foundation of democracy and reconciliation. Some others, on the other hand, will speak about values based on fears, suspicion, mistrust, bigotry and intolerance. We are now at the crossroads of history. Are we to walk forward, united in our diversity, to a new age of freedom and prosperity, or are we to go back to the darkness of a bygone era? The choice is ours to make.
The Finance Minister also highlighted the macroeconomic goals for the 2018 budget.
In the medium term, the 2018 budget empowers the mid-term goals of per capita income of $5,000, generating 1 million jobs, obtaining foreign direct investment of $5 billion and doubling exports to $10 billion. We hope to maintain an economic growth rate of 5% and to limit inflation to 6% in 2018. For the first time in 6 decades, we expect to have a surplus of 1% of GDP in the primary account this year. We also hope to maintain the budget deficit in 2018 at 4.5% of GDP.
There were mixed reactions to the budget. Here are the views of some MPs.
This is a good budget prepared for the development of the country. You can tell a beautiful story. It sounds good to people who are listening. We need to look at how it will be implemented. It is a budget that will bring victory to the country. It is a budget that will build homes. It is a progressive budget that protects the healthcare sector, strengthens education and the youth. With regard to everything that was said, there are clear issues regarding the lack of clarity. At times, there was no explanation of what is to be expected. There were several policy proposals put forward. It also mentions how it will be implemented. A budget that will rebuild the country was presented today. There are concessions for everyone in the budget except the people. There are concessions for animals too, but not for the people. Speaker Karu Jayasuriya announced today that a seat in Parliament is now vacant following the ruling that Geeta Kumarasinghe cannot hold her parliamentary seat due to her dual citizenship.
Considering the judgment delivered by the Court of Appeal that Honourable Parliamentarian Geeta Samanmali Kumar Singh from the Gaul electorate is unsuitable to be elected as an MP, take a seat in Parliament and vote in Parliament, which is challenged at the Supreme Court under writ application number 362/2015, which was quashed by the Supreme Court, which confirmed the verdict of the Court of Appeal, I would like to announce that a seat is now vacant in Parliament.
A group of joint opposition MPs, including former President Mahinda Rajapaksa, made their entrance to Parliament for the budget speech today on bicycles and bullock carts.
The bullock cart on which MP Dinesh Gunawardena arrived in was not permitted to enter the parliamentary complex. Thereafter, when proceedings began, MP Gunawardena raised a question in the chambers on privileges, to which the Speaker responded that the matter will be looked into.
Following the budget presentation, the parliamentarians were hosted to the traditional tea party. After a budget speech that lasted almost 3 hours, the traditional tea party hosted by the Finance Minister was held in Parliament today. All members of Parliament took part in the tea party. However, members of the UNP attended a special meeting in a committee room prior to attending the tea party. Our parliamentary correspondent noted that the group had been discussing the upcoming budget debates. Join us for more news after this short commercial break.
The report of the three-member committee appointed by the current government to inquire into the Walikada prison incident of 2012 has concluded that the affair was predetermined and deliberate. According to the findings, the police special task force was ordered to storm the Walikada prison by the then Defence Secretary Gotabaya Rajapaksa.
The report also states that the superintendent of the prison was not pre-warned of the operation. The SDF had entered the prison to quell the riot even though the superintendent had informed them his officers were capable of doing the same.
"27 inmates were killed and 20 injured during the Walikada prison incident in November 2012. Several police officers, including a Deputy Inspector General, were also injured in the incident. While the Criminal Investigations Department initiated an investigation into the riot and subsequent storming of the prison, the results of this investigation are unknown as yet. Subsequently, then Minister of Rehabilitation and Prison Reforms, Chandrasiri Gajadhira, appointed a three-member committee to conduct inquiries. The committee comprised of retired High Court Judge Bandula Tapattu, retired DIG Gunasena Thenabandhu and legal officer at the Ministry of Rehabilitation and Prison Reforms Lalit Andara Hannadi. While the committee submitted an interim report in February 2013 and a final report in November 2013 to Minister Gajadhira, the fate of these reports is unknown. Following the election of the Good Governance government, then Justice Minister Vijaydas Rajapaksa appointed another committee on the 22nd of January 2015 to probe the incident. The committee's report, a lengthy tome of more than 600 pages, was submitted to Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe on the 9th of June 2015. The committee was chaired by retired High Court Judge Wimal Nambuwasam and also included retired administrative official Attorney at Law S.K. Lianage and retired DIG Asoka Vijaytilaka. Alarmingly, the committee report notes that some of the firearms that were found in the vicinity of the bodies of deceased inmates had been placed there post-mortem. The Committee of Inquiry has found fault with then Commissioner General of Prisons, P.W. Kodippili, Jailer Indika Sampath of Prisons Intelligence, then Senior DIG, Anura Senanayaka, Brigadier Shantha Disanayaka, and the Superintendent of the magazine prison, Emil Ranjan, over the incident. It has been more than 2.5 years since the report was submitted. We do not see any motivation to either implement or not implement the recommendations in our report. We received correct and true information and we submitted several recommendations. The gist of what we submitted is that this was a crime. We recommended that it be considered as such and that criminal procedures be followed, including a criminal investigation to enforce the law on the responsible persons. The state is responsible for the safety of inmates in prisons. This was carried out by officials in the former government, so the government has a responsibility to investigate and punish them. Since murder has been committed here, there must be a murderer. It is the government's responsibility to investigate this, find out who the murderer is, and punish them. The first step is to conduct a criminal investigation, identify the suspects, and enforce the law against them through the judiciary. Inmates who had been identified by prison department officials of being involved in the incident filed cases against the prison department and received further punishment for this reason alone. We recommended that those who had received further punishment for involvement in the incident have their punishments lifted. If this duty is not being carried out, then society has a responsibility to pressure the government to carry out this duty. Will the implementation of the recommendations of the Committee of Inquiry on the Walikada prison riot follow the same course as the long-delayed National Audit Bill? Is the government guilty of suppressing the report of the investigation into the 2012 Walikada prison riot?
Yesterday, cameras captured State Minister Ravindra Samaravira's involvement in a tender process. What implications can such an incident have? Tonight, we take a look.
Hello. Oh, Hari Sharaka, memang mesti kita dengan kata agar kita dengan call kalau tino tender switchment balla tender ka daan ko hata. Oh, dan call kalau tadi Indrajit Vijayasuri ki lagi na mesti ni lekam ke ni Indrajit Vijayasuri awal hambela takala wah ki mereka daan dengan hari dah. Amatnya sedih ambil lagi. Jadi saya baik betul. Indrajit Vijayasuri lang kata mata call le kata haru.
State Minister Ravindra Samaravira is involving himself in a tender process in relation to a cafeteria operated at the Foreign Employment Bureau over Province Service Centre in Haliala Badulla.
I am not asking to stop a tender process. As far as I am aware, tenders have not been called for as yet. I am simply advising the person to submit a tender. I have only made a request from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I have merely responded to a request made by one of my constituents. I have not asked for the tender to be stopped or to be given to my constituent. I have not said that.
The minister asked me about that. Tenders will be opened in due course. He asked me what would happen to the cafeteria at the Haliala Service Centre. I told him we have called for tenders. We will not intervene in the process like the past administration. We will not influence the officials and we follow a proper procurement process. All I said was to go meet the secretary and he would do the needful. Every citizen has the right and it is not a big deal.
Though it is not a big deal to the minister, have another listen to how the State Minister was getting involved in the tender process.
Indrajit Vijayasuri ki lagi na mesti ni lekam ke ni Indrajit Vijayasuri awal hambela takala wah ki mereka daan dengan hari dah. Amatnya sedih ambil lagi. Jadi saya baik betul. Indrajit Vijayasuri lang kata mata call le kata haru.
What does one understand from this conversation? Isn't it clear? A State Minister is making a request for special treatment for an associate in a public tender process.
The guidelines have made it clear how a procurement process must take place in a public institution. An MP or minister cannot get involved in that process. The guidelines were tabled in Parliament and have been published in a gazette. The National Procurement Commission hopes to take action on those who are involved in wrongdoing.
Commission to investigate allegations of bribery or corruption, Police Financial Crimes Investigation Division and the General Secretary of the United National Party. This is over to you.
අපි ඒ වැරදි දූෂිත පාලනයක් පෙරලා අපි ආණ්ඩුවක් පිහිටෙව්වේ ඇයි? අපි අපේ හෘද සාක්ෂියෙන් අහන්න ඕනේ. වැරදි කරපු මිනිස්සුන්ට අපි ඇඟිල්ල දික් කරනවා වගේම වැරදි කරපු මිනිස්සුන්ට දඬුවම් දිය යුතුයි වගේම අපේ වැඩේ අපි හරියට කරනවාද කියන කාරණාව. වැරදි නම් වැරදි දේ කවුරු කළත් වැරදි. වැරදි කරන සියලු දෙනාට විරුද්ධව ආණ්ඩුවේද විපක්ෂයේද කොහෙද කොතනද ඕන කෙනෙකුට විරුද්ධව නීතිය ක්‍රියාත්මක.
The Colombo Fort Magistrates Court has ordered the Police Financial Crimes Investigation Division to take action against former President's Chief of Staff Gamini Senrath, Piyadasa Kudabalage and Neil Hapuhinna in accordance with the Code of Criminal Procedures. Gamini Senrath, Piyadasa Kudabalage and Neil Hapuhinna are alleged to have misappropriated public funds for a hotel development project. The police FCID has commenced an investigation against the trio and informed court the suspects would be arrested and produced before court. The suspects who appeared before court today said a petition had been filed at the Supreme Court seeking an order to prevent their arrest. The lawyers appearing for the suspects said that their clients will not surrender to the magistrates' court as suspects today. The Colombo Fort Magistrate ordered the police FCID to take action in accordance with the Code of Criminal Procedures. Our correspondent said that Gamini Senrath left the court premises in a car along with his attorneys.
Ceylon Petroleum Storage Terminals Limited announced the consignment of petrol unloaded from the fuel tanker Nevis Kalady is being distributed to filling stations across the country since earlier this evening.
The tanker Neveska Lady laid anchor in Colombo last night. Samples from this vessel were tested this morning and a report citing the fuel met the required quality was released this afternoon. Thereafter, the unloading commenced and Ceylon Petroleum Storage Terminals Limited said another 1,500 metric tons of fuel was released to filling stations during the course of the day. However, many filling stations across the country were shut down due to the shortage of fuel. As of this moment, around 1,000 metric tons of fuel unloaded from the vessel have been distributed by our bowsers. Since this morning, we released 2,000 metric tons of petrol from the stocks in Muthurajawala and Kolonnawa. The distribution process is continuing and the situation will return to normalcy by tomorrow. Meanwhile, the tanker Unique Developer is currently anchored in the outer harbour of Trincomalee, as it announced it is prepared to swap fuel from Tom Astrid, which is said to have carried substandard fuel.
Many villagers across Siamalandua have been affected by the lack of clean drinking water. Villagers in the area note that water being released from the Siamalandua water supply unit is not suitable for consumption. On Monday, we reported the fact that 1,400 people from the Puhunu Danawa village and many others in Siamalandua are in crisis due to the shortage of water.
The water given to us is never filtered. It is muddy. There is no point in supplying water when the people are asleep. Who take water at that time?
When Newsfirst contacted the Siamalandua water supply unit on Monday, an officer said that the purification process has become inefficient. He, however, promised to rectify the situation immediately and commence the supply of filtered water. At present, these areas receive water. However, according to the locals, the water cannot be consumed. The locals made another startling revelation today. In order to prove this, they accompanied our correspondent to the water purification center, which is under construction at the Kalu Oba junction. The wilderness had taken over the filters that were placed at the location several months ago. After the news report, we were supplied with water. However, we cannot drink that water. They say that they cannot purify the water because they lack the equipment. However, take a look at this place. Equipment worth millions are neglected and wilderness has taken over. There are mosquitoes here. These were brought here 9 months ago. Newsfirst contacted the Monragal Regional Manager of the National Water Supply and Drainage Board, M.L. Makim, on the matter. He said though the filters were moved to the location months ago, a proper pipe system is yet to be constructed. He said tenders have been called and construction of the new purification center will be completed in 3 months.
Don't worry about failing seems to be the message coming from Minister of Telecommunication and Digital Infrastructure, Harin Fernando. The minister was speaking at the closing session of a two-day dialogue titled #We're 2030, Youth Dialogue and Incubation Program.
Don't worry about failing. Absolutely don't worry about failing. Failing should be if you talk about failing, we lost 29 times in the election. And I'm thinking we are going to lose again at the way that things are going. But that's fine. That's simply fine. And I'm never going to be worried about it. Because you need to fail to win again. And that's, when you know the art of failing, or I wouldn't say the art of failing, or the taste of failing, when you know the taste of failing, you know how much it means when you win something too. Well, I don't know if this government understand that we won in only 2 years so far, the blunders we are making. So sometimes we need to be very positive in how we think about this and never worry about somebody condemning about your innovation. Keep trying. Look at every successful person who have won life has started with the failures.
The dialogue was organized by the UNDP together with the Ministry of Telecommunication and Digital Infrastructure, National Youth Services Council, Ministry of National Policies and Economic Affairs, and the Information Communication Technology Agency.
We don't have any time for ethnic futures or even national futures anymore. We only have one future, and that's the future that associates us with our planet. And it is about efficiency and effectiveness. So be part of that global community that moves towards that collective and global future that all of us so importantly have to be part of. Young people in Sri Lanka, globally, you are the change agent. So please, I urge you to work with government, with UN, with your teachers, with your professors, with your communities to be that agent of change.
Stay tuned to Hot Seat right after the news, where Dr. Nalinda Jayatissa speaks of the abysmal failure of this government to deliver upon its promises.
We now take a look at tonight's cartoonist Asanka Laduahetti's picture that speaks louder than words. That's it from us tonight. Thank you.
Babiachige bicycle Olo kelo uda pena kerwa beleke Olo kelo uda pena babiachie madatia kena Olo kelo uda pena kerwa beleke Ayui babiachige bicycle Olo kelo uda pena kerwa beleke Olo kelo uda pena babiachie madatia kena Olo kelo uda pena kerwa beleke Ayui babiachige bicycle Olo kelo uda pena kerwa beleke